I'm going to use a brown Sharpie for this because I haven't tried a brown Sharpie yet. I thought it would look pretty cool. I don't even know what I'm going to do yet as far as color palette or anything. I'm just going to go ahead and start. Now, the more lines that you put down, the longer this part is going to take, obviously. So what you do now is anywhere that you have an intersecting line, you just want to go ahead and round it off. So you don't want any right angles. And because I'm using watercolor paper, the Sharpie's not going to bleed through. So if you want to make sure that the other side is protected, that's probably the best thing to do, is to use a thicker paper. But I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to go through here. And you can see I'm thickening these lines up just so that they look nice. And I lost my round edge right here. And I think I want that a little rounder. But you'll get the idea the more that you, after you do this for about 5 minutes, you'll have it down. And that's all you do is just work your way around. And once we finish doing this, then we'll go back in with some paint and we'll paint each of these sections. So I think I've pretty much got everything rounded out, and as you do this, you'll see areas that you want to refine a little bit, which is one of the reasons that these lines get so thick. You can definitely use a finer tipped pen. I have one right here. It's brand new, but I just don't know if it's waterproof or not, which I can figure out later. But anyway, if you're using a Sharpie and you're trying to clean up your lines, just hold the pen kind of perpendicular to your page and you'll be able to get a little bit of a finer line. I think mine is this is actually a fine point. So it still makes a pretty thick line though, if you're holding it at a lower angle. So you can also go through here and add in some other shapes if you'd like. So if you feel like you want to add some extra things, you can always go in and just use any object that you've got to make a circle. You can add other shapes too by tracing around. And then anywhere that this circle intersects the other lines, then I'll round those off as well. So this is your piece, and you can pretty much do anything that you want. This is just for fun. This is an art practice to kind of help you get away from the world's junk. So we'll move on to adding some color to these different areas. So what I plan to do with this is to use watercolor, and I have some watercolors pulled out here, and they're right next to me on my palette, and I'm just gonna go with these, and it's an assortment. I just squeezed them right out of the tube. I also have these watercolors in my Daniel Smith palette, and if you have an empty palette and tubes of watercolor, you can just squeeze them into the empty pans and let them dry, and which is what has happened here. So I need to use these colors up because I certainly don't want to waste any of this. And if you want to create something that looks fairly cohesive, then I would suggest picking a small number of colors. I think I've got, 9 colors here, and that's not too bad. And I like to use this. This is an Artist's Law pointed filbert, and it's really nice because it makes a really, really nice sharp point. So I can get into some really tight areas, but I can also lay down a nice big wash of watercolors. So I'm just going to go ahead and start, and you can watch me paint this. What I'll probably do is start with one color and drop in other colors. I'm just going to play around. There's no rhyme or reason for any of this, and the idea is to have a relaxing time, which is why I think it's so important to have a limited palette and have colors that you really love, and just kind of go from there. So here we go. So this is pretty much dry, and I did want to show you, when you look at some of these colors, they have a the ability, they granulate. They're granulating colors. And this Ziosite Genuine by Daniel Smith is one of those colors that does that. And also this Imperial Purple. And there are several other colors in the Daniel Smith line that do that. And one of my favorite, and a lot of other people, a lot of other artists, is the Cascade Green, which I don't have laid out here, but I still have some really nice effects. So I'm going to go ahead and peel this off, which is, in my opinion, probably one of the best parts of this whole process. Now, washi tape is pretty good. Sometimes it will lift and you'll get some bleeds under the tape, but this is my sketchbook, so yeah, it's fine. And I know there's an area down here that didn't want to stay down, so that's probably got some paint underneath it. And I'm surprised actually it doesn't, but I did get some paint running under here, and that's okay. And you don't have to stop here. What I'll probably do is add some extra details to this. And I did that on some of these. Like this, you can see I went over it with some ink. And this was a really fine tipped pen. I added a couple of little white dots in there with the gel pen. And for this one, I also added some gold watercolor. So there's all sorts of things you can do. I mean, this is your piece of art, so this is a good place to experiment too. If you have new pens, like I have these new fine liner pens, and I've been wanting to try them out, so this is probably what I'll use them on to try them out. And I did want to mention also that if you wanted to give this a little bit of an extra something, you can also add a very light wash of gray or purple on one side of the shapes, and we'll give it kind of a shadow three-dimensional effect. So that's pretty much it for this piece, and I can go back in here and add some extra details if I want. I did notice that my fountain pen and my gold gel pen didn't really work on top of the Sharpie marker, so I left it alone. And if I wanted, I can go back in here into each of the individual shapes and add little doodles or some lines to make it a little more interesting. I did outline the shape on one side just a little bit with my fine liner to try it out, but I think that wraps up this piece of artwork. And it is very meditative, it's very relaxing, and you can just kind of get into the flow when you're painting something like this. So give it a try. Let me know in the comment section how you liked it, and I will see you soon. Thanks.